Hello, welcome back to Recap Central. Today we'll recap Pan's Labyrinth. It's about the daughter of a general doing magical tasks to return to her kingdom with her family. Subscribe for more movie recaps. Let's get started. Ophelia, an 11-year-old girl, is the protagonist of the story. Ophelia is the daughter of the Underworld's king, but not in a terrible way. She is lost in the mortal world and has forgotten who she is. She rises up, wondering about what's above the earth, only to be blinded by the sun. Above ground, her life isn't much better. She finds herself the daughter of a major general in the Spanish Civil War, and the story begins with her and her pregnant mother in a vehicle on their way to their new home, Captain Vittle's estate. Ophelia has an odd preoccupation with fairies, and when she later explores the estate, she discovers a stick insect and believes it is a fairy. While they are distracted, Ophelia notices the stick insect again and pursues it to the entrance of a crumbling stone labyrinth. On her way back from the well, she encounters the housekeeper Mercedes, who warns her to avoid the maze. On the first night, a lot happens. For one thing, Ophelia notices Mercedes and Ferrero, the doctor, assisting the rebels. For another, the bug transforms into a far more fairy-like creature and guides her to the labyrinth in the middle of the night. She descends some steps and is welcomed by a very terrifying faun who informs her that she is the princess of legend and that she must fulfill 3 tasks before the full moon in order to return to her true home. The first step is to give 3 magical stones to the big toad that lives within a fig tree. Ophelia gives the toad the magical stones. He collapses and dies. Unfortunately, things aren't any better in the real world. Carmen's pregnancy is rapidly deteriorating. She's bleeding and feverish all the time. Fortunately, the faun is present to provide Ophelia with a mandrake root to aid her mother. It's now time to move on to the second task. She walks into a room with a strange-looking man with long nails and no eyes on his face. This is the Pale Man, and he's the color of uncooked bread dough, as his name indicates. She gets the blade she was ordered to obtain, but she can't stop herself from eating the meal she was advised not to consume. When she eats a grape, the monster awakens, places his eyes in his hands, and nearly pursues Ophelia down the corridor. Ophelia escapes by creating a door with magic chalk and escaping to the real world. Let's take a quick minute for our new segment, 3 Facts Recaps. Let's begin. Number 1. Doug Jones attempted to learn Spanish for his role. The Indiana-born actor, well-renowned for his work in heavy prosthetics and makeup, had previously collaborated with Del Toro on Hellboy and Mimic, and was the director's first choice to play the faun and the Pale Man. But he did not speak Spanish, so he practiced during his makeup routine. It wasn't enough, and a Spanish teacher ended up doing the dub. Number 2. Due to drought, there were limited sparks and flames when Del Toro shot his picture in Segovia, Spain. The region was facing its worst drought in 30 years, so his crew had to be inventive. They used synthetic moss to disguise the brownness in the woodland shootout approximately 70 minutes into the film, and they didn't utilize squibs or bullets due to the heightened fire danger. In reality, Del Toro stated that the film employs practically no genuine flames, sparks, or fires, except an exploding vehicle in another scene. Those components were digitally added in post-production. Number 3. The image of the faun is included in the architecture. If you look closely, you may see the faun's head in the pattern of the banister of the captain's residence. It's a subtle reminder that the fantasy world is infiltrating the actual one. Now back to the recap. Meanwhile, we find that Mercedes' brother is a mortal rebel. She and the doctor are back and forth, delivering food to the rebels. Vittle learns the truth and acts on it. The faun is furious that Ophelia ate the grapes and yells at her before fleeing. The next morning, Vittle observes Ophelia checking on the mandrake in her mother's chamber and is taken aback by the mandrake root. Carmen regains consciousness and says that she will deal with it. She throws the mandrake in the fireplace and immediately goes into labor, which costs her her life. Her newborn kid, thankfully, is unhurt. Vidal is smitten with the youngster, but more crucially, with the prospect of generating an heir to carry on his legacy. However, things do not start to improve. Vidal realizes Mercedes' intention to assist the rebels and seeks to leave, taking Ophelia with her. Vidal catches up with them and pulls Mercedes back to punish her, but Vidal is the one who is injured. Mercedes can retreat into the woods and finally meet up with the rebels. Ophelia snatches her brother and runs Vidal, who chases her with his gun on the orders of the Faun, who provides her a second chance. Meanwhile, the rebels are launching an attack on the estate. Ophelia enters the labyrinth and comes face to face with the Faun. The Faun, on the other hand, wishes to use the knife to sever her brother's throat and gather his blood in order to open the doorway. Ophelia, being the kind sister that she is, declines. But it's too late. Vidal finds her, kidnaps the baby, and murders Ophelia. Vidal eventually makes his way out of the maze, only to be confronted by the rebels. His young son is taken from him and he is shot. They later come upon the dying Ophelia inside the labyrinth, whose blood falls into the pool, granting her entry to the Underworld. She awakens in a golden-colored hall, with her true parents seated on 2 thrones and a third one unoccupied, reserved for her. The Faun, as well as all the fairies, are present, and they all kneel before her. Ophelia is overjoyed since she is finally at home. If you liked this movie, check out this one. It's about a sleepwalking teenager that runs into a demonic-looking rabbit that tells him the world will end in 28 days. This is Donnie Darko. Stay tuned.